Welcome, Martin Plowman, British GT driver. Thank you very much for coming on the show and getting involved. But yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm good. British GT back. But I was going to start by asking you, how did you get into motorsport and how did you sort of find an interest in it?
Well, I think my dad was always really keen on racing. Growing up, he was mad keen on Formula One, and when he was younger, he wanted to get into racing, but obviously could never afford to do so. Um, and then when he started his own business, one of his clients raced Renault 5 turbos, so they would travel around the country watching him race. Um, and then he bought me an off-road kart for me when I was 3 years old. So every weekend we'd bomb around the field, and he'd chase me around in this 1 horsepower Briggs and Stratton off-road kart. And then that progressed into going to national karting, Coma Cadets when I was 8 years old. And it just became like a family hobby. And in the beginning, it was all about going to the track as a family and good days out. But then one thing led to the other, and it became a life journey.
Yeah, I imagine your dad was an inspiration. But were there any other sort of drivers that inspired you to get into motorsport?
I think like many drivers, I was around the age when growing up, watching Senna on TV, and for me, even though it was Senna versus Mansell, and I should be saying Mansell being British, Senna was obviously a hero for me, and that was my inspiration to get into racing. But then since then, I've just met so many inspirational people along the way. Guys, Alex Zanardi was very influential in my early career. Dan Weldon, of course, two-time Indy 500 champion, and he played a massive part in my career, taking me from Europe and opening the doors for me to go over to America. So yeah, I mean, there's been many drivers along the way who've helped me out.
Absolutely. And would you say there was like a particular aim? Obviously, you're doing GT racing now, but would you say there was an aim or a championship you wanted to get to?
I think like any young driver, Formula One was always the aim. And when I was just about the age to leave karting, I was on the Toyota F1 junior program, and at the time it was a very realistic aim. I was very fortunate. I was selected to go to the shootout for the Toyota program, and I was selected as one of two drivers from my generation to go onto this F1 junior program, and that was a 10-year contract to go from karting, and they were going to pay the whole way from karting to Formula One.
Really?
And then 3 years into that, unfortunately, like a lot of drivers, that journey ended. And then at the age of 18, 19, with no backing, no sponsorship, to fall back on, we were kind of at a crossroads. And it was very late in the off season. I'd just done 2.5 years in Formula Renault in Italy and the European Series, and all the F3 teams at the time were already signed up. So that's when the call came from Dan Weldon. Dan Weldon's godfather, he works in the same office as my dad. They work together. So I've been following Dan's career very closely over in the States, and he'd been doing so well and blitzing a scene over there. And Dan says, stop messing around in Europe. Time to get on a one-way ticket to America. And then that's when I did. I went over there in 2008, and then I spent the next 10 years over in America.
And you said you've driven some, in lots of different championships and lots of different types of cars. But what has been your favourite so far to drive?
There's been so many. I mean, I've been very fortunate to have driven a lot of different cars in different championships, from IndyCar to LMP cars to GT cars. But I don't know. I guess the ones that are most fun for me are the ones that are fast.
Yeah.
Where they bring you the most trophies. Uh, I've got a lot of happy memories driving the Oak Ligier LMP2 car from 2012 and 2013. It was such a well balanced car, and at the time against its peers, it had a lot of top end speed as well. So it had a happy medium of a very good aero, but it was also very slippery as well. So it was a very strong car, and it lacked mechanical grip, but it had a very strong aero package. And around Le Mans, it was
Yeah.
it was the car to beat, and that's where, you know, I've had a lot of happy memories.
Absolutely. Now, British GT, I'm sure you're glad you made the decision to head over to British GT. What would you say is the best thing about racing in it? Because I think it's such a brilliant championship here in the UK.
I love it. It's such a different style of racing than sprint racing, where every driver's out for themselves. What I love about British GT or endurance racing in general is the teamwork involved between two drivers, and how two drivers have to compromise to work together to get the most out of a car. Yeah, you can't just have a setup that is dialed in for one guy and then doesn't work for the other guy. You have to work together. It's a proper team sport. There's no, you have to take the egos out of it, and there's a lot of strategy involved. There's a lot of different exciting cars at play and balancing performance, to try and make them all on an even playing field. It's a very colourful championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've driven in the GT4 class. Obviously, this season you are in the GT3s. This might sound like a bit of a silly question, but how different does it feel to drive for two different types of GT4 car to GT3 cars? Because I imagine it's quite a big step up.
It's a huge step up, not just in terms of lap times, but driving style and the way you apply a weekend. There's a massive difference in performance in the cars in terms of the downforce available. The GT4 car is obviously more like a road going GT car, whereas the GT3, there's so much downforce available from the floor, from the bigger wings, and the splitters at the front. You have to bear that in mind. In the driving style, it's all about managing the aero balance. With a GT4 car, you can wrestle the car a lot more, but if you drive too aggressively with a GT3, then you upset the aero and then you lose all performance. So there's also keeping the tires in the operating window. That's where the engineers really earn their money. If you're off by a couple of points of pressure or temperature range, then you lose all performance from the tires. So it's all about keeping everything tight and neat and tidy, not just with your driving, but also with the setup of the car.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's not only such a good championship because of the cars, but I guess because also the circuits, because I think it's quite an interesting dynamic, because I think a lot of the circuits, such as Alton Park, are quite tight in the UK, which is quite interesting. But do you have a favourite circuit to race at in particular in British GT?
I love Donington, but that's probably because it's my local circuit.
Yeah.
Silverstone's always been a personal favourite of mine. I seem to be very comfortable there. No matter what kind of car I drive, that's always one of my favourite circuits. But there's loads of good circuits. Of course, Alton Park is another favourite. But recently, I got to drive at Cadwell Park for the first time
Oh,
in
really?
one of my team's Mazda MX-5. So I've never driven there and raced there in my life.
Yeah.
And I tested there last year in an MX-5, and I love the place.
Yeah, it's a cool little circuit actually, especially for historic racing and bike racing. But yeah, so you mentioned obviously earlier how important it is to work well with your team and teammate, because obviously the cars are shared in British GT. Now you've been working with your teammate Kelvin Fletcher for quite a while. You've had plenty of success, but how did that actually start, and when did you first meet?
We met, was it in the 2017 season, the year that he was racing in touring cars. My manager at the time, Ben Snowden, when was racing with Ultratech, was also doing PR work for Kelvin's team in touring cars, and Kelvin was quite new to touring cars, to the professional racing scene, and I think you wouldn't mind me saying he needed a little bit of help, because he didn't have anybody to help preparing for a weekend, or any driver coach or anything like that. So Ben asked Calvin if it was all right for me to come along, and I did, and I spent one weekend with him as a driver coach, not to charge him any money.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I was expecting to find an amateur with bad habits, wrong techniques, but when I went through the data, there was a real driver in there, and what I saw was was somebody that knew how to drive. They just needed polishing. They just needed to to smooth off the edges, to stop overdriving the car, just to rein it in a little bit and focus on the exit. And but also just to give him the structure of how the race weekend works, how you prepare mentally to get in the car, and just the small nuances that go into being a professional driver. And very quickly, we just developed a bond and a friendship. And then the end of that season, the team I was racing with were looking for another driver in the second car to race against the other AM driver in our team. And we managed to convince him to jump from touring cars into GT racing, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly. You said obviously you work well together, you get along, and as I've said, you've had plenty of success, and I'm sure more to come in the future. But who would you say is faster out of the two of you?
Well, I have to say me, because if he was quicker than me, then I would be out of a job.
Yeah.
It's obviously in the pro-am dynamic, he's billed as the amateur driver, but that's not a term I say is a negative connotation. He's amateur only in the sense that this is not his full-time job. People probably don't appreciate just how good he is, and it's my job to bring him along and to help him improve. But he's a very, very talented driver who hasn't been racing all that long. And had he started from an early age, then there's no doubt that I think he would have been professional. Of course, he became an actor, and we all know what he's done on TV. But he's one of these guys that's annoyingly good at anything he turns his hand to, whether that's dancing, as with Strictly, or whether it's driving. So he's just a very talented individual.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously last year was very difficult. You guys obviously didn't compete. That must have been, really difficult for you guys, but I'm sure you'd agree, I guess, for the right decision for you both.
It was. I think what's going on, what is going on with the pandemic. We had the money in the bank from the sponsor. We Imagine Cruising. They're a fantastic partner of ours, and everything was all set to go last year to go racing. But because the fans weren't allowed there, and because none of our guests could go to the circuit, we would have been spending that money, that investment, in vain. There would have been no return on that investment for our partner to bring their guests or their clients to the race, and that's what it's all about. So I think we made the right decision just to part the whole agreement for 1 year and see how the world shakes up. And now, luckily, I think we are about to go racing again and bringing fans and guests to the circuit. And the most important thing is that we need to keep the sponsors happy. So I think finally we're gonna get back to where we were.
Yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, we've got the British GT season right around the corner. What would you say is the aim for this season? Obviously, first season in the GT3 in British GT, but what's the aim?
I think the aim this year is being realistic. It's a big step up for both of us. It's a newish, well, I say a new team, but a new team to us. So we got to learn to work with a new team. It's a brand new car that is very fast on its day, but is quite a difficult beast to manage. And if we're honest, we are a little bit behind on development. With ourselves and the team. We only received the car about 2 weeks ago. Really? So we are playing catch up at the moment, and we had our very first test day only last week. So we know most of our rivals, apart from racing for the last 3 years or 4 years, have been out testing 8, 9, 10 days already. So I think, of course, you go into every race weekend to win. That's just the mentality you have to have. But being realistic, I think we need to treat this weekend as experience. We've got to go in there and keep learning, keep building on our own performance and what we need from the car and how to make the car better. I think it'd be very wrong for us to just go in there thinking that we'll be competing at the sharp end. We need to really build on this, and hopefully we'll get to the point where we can start challenging for podiums and race wins.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish you the best of luck. Obviously, I won't keep you for too much longer. just to sort of finish off, Paddock Motorsport, that must be, it must be really great to have, an exciting new challenge and to help some more people out.
It was, yeah, I think the dream of running my own team one day, that was something that I had pictured, in a 10, 8, 9, 10 years away from now. But then circumstances came up and the opportunity arose, and it was just a perfect opportunity to just start the team with Kelvin, and it all fell into place, and things just exploded so quickly. So we went from running one Mazda to three Mazdas to five MX-5s in the space of about 6 months, and then fast forward another year, we're taking finance out and buying a GT4 car. And we've got two very young, exciting drivers that we're running in our car, plus my sponsors from Signature RV with their own GT4 car are running in a team. So we went from no cars to 5 MX-5s and 2 GT4s in the space of a year.
Oh, it's incredible. It must be really rewarding as well to see them out on track with all the sponsors happy as well.
It is, it's been a massive learning curve from being on the other side of the fence, from not having the helmet on to being a team owner. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. I've got, as far as the racing side goes, I feel like I've been around 20, 25 years, so I know what's going on and how the business works. But actually running a real business as a team owner, that's where I feel I'm completely out of my depth. Everything from staff to insurance to all the legal jargon that goes on. It is a massive learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so very much for coming on the show and having a chat. I wish you guys the best of luck for the new British GT season. Obviously, season starts at Brands Hatch, and what a circuit to start at. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All the best. Good luck.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks, Louis.